What up, Black Man? Welcome to another study hall session where I spend some time looking at stuff on my watch later list or things that I feel are important to one, my own personal development and self improvement, whether it's how I'm thinking, whether it's learning things about mental and emotional health, and just growing and striving to become a beneficial man. Study hall. This is what we're doing. We're looking at stuff, reading articles, watching videos, doing the things that we should be doing every day. I'm just sharing a small moment of what I do on a regular basis. I try to watch a lot of personal development, a lot of self-help content, because I'm going to be my best self. Like I've mentioned before, I'm striving to become a beneficial Black man as well, in regards to encouraging all of you to do the same, because we need it. Our community does it. And today I'm going to be talking about or reviewing a video entitled, let me pull it up, Black Men and Therapy, and it's by the YouTube channel The Family. I've never heard of the YouTube channel. This is just something, when I searched Black Men Therapy, something like that, this is what came up. And so I have a lot of things on my watch later list discussing that topic, because I think therapy is very, very important for us as Black men. And it's something we need to continue to work on. And, I've been having thoughts about this in regards to why I'm doing this channel and why, I want to continue to help Black men to grow in this area of, growing in mental and emotional health and ultimately thinking better. I think for me is realizing that it's a huge problem within our community. But it started first as a huge problem in my own life. Thinking terrible thoughts, not knowing how to manage and have good mental and emotional health has been very detrimental to me and my growth. And the thing about it and why it's so important that we work on changing our minds and having better mental health. And, for me, mental health is more than just overcoming depression or anything like that, but it's actually the process of our mind working and our thoughts and the things that we believe, because our thoughts impact our beliefs and our beliefs impact how we behave and how we act and the things that we do. And if we have bad thinking, if we have bad thoughts, that leads to bad beliefs, and it then leads to bad actions. And sometimes when people hear that, they think, what's going on, Themis? What it do? Happy Saturday to you. I hope you're doing well. Like when people think of like bad actions, they think of like the most heinous things. It's like, oh, this kid, had such bad thoughts, so they went and deleted a lot of people. Yes, that is terrible. That is very, very terrible. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's also bad when people don't take care of themselves, and that has an impact on themselves and also their family. And so from my own personal experience, like I've had, because of bad thoughts and bad beliefs that I've had really negative internal results and really, really negative external results. If I'm being transparent, I've wrestled with dealing with like self-harm. I've wrestled with self-deletion. I've attempted it twice in my life. And with all of that stuff and the things that I've wrestled with, it's impacted my marriage, it's impacted my friendships, it's impacted my family. And realizing that a lot of it stems from how I viewed myself, how I thought about myself, how I thought about the world around me, how I thought about a lot of things. And so it's important to me now more than ever to keep learning how to think better so that I can be better, believe better, and do better for myself, for my wife, for my family, for my community. And, it's part of this whole beneficial Black man thing is to encourage other men that struggle with bad thoughts, whether it's bad mental health with themselves, bad perceptions of the world around them. We need to think better so that we can be better, so that we can do better. And not all of us have the resources. Not all of us are searching for, content like this, Black men in therapy. Not all of us are doing that, but I think it's important that somebody does. And I'm including myself in that somebody. I'm being one of those somebodies, because I think it's important for our community and for our brothers, because I believe in us. And I know we've been down and out for a very long time. And we've been making really bad decisions for a very long time. And if we don't do the work, things can't get better. Things cannot get better. If we don't make if we don't make better decisions, if we don't make better choices and make an effort to change, things will not get better for ourselves. Things won't get better for our community. Things will not get better. So we have to. We have to do that. And one of my goals, I haven't officially written it down, but one of my goals is to really get 100,000 black men striving to become beneficial for their community. Because I think that's like a drop in the bucket in the amount of black men that exist here just in the States. But I think if you get, as the saying goes, a few good men, you can change the world. And that's imperative to me. That's important to me. And particularly for our community, like, stuff is trash and we need to do better. We need to do better, Sorry. Hey there, the other MJ, and hello to you, Level Up Single Mom. So thank you all for joining me as we do this. Oh, no problem, famous. Yeah, I'm believing that. I'm praying about that. And for me, I feel like I do get discouraged about it, because it's like there's a lot of noise on the internet. And I don't want to assume this, but maybe you feel this way, especially with like a lot of the content that you make and the content that you experience, and even the stuff that you experience on your own platform. It seems like an insurmountable task to get men, particularly black men, to not think so trash and to not believe so many trashy things. And hearing it and seeing it and experiencing it day after day after day, moment after moment after moment, it seems like, this is never going to get better. This is never going to change. But I am believing that, again, even if it's just a handful, even if it's just a small few, I think that's better than nothing. And so if that means I have to keep screaming in the void, I will do it, because I believe somebody will hear it. Somebody will come across my channel, and all the content, all the stuff I'm saying, it'll show up right when it needs to show up. So I'm trying to hold on to that and believe that whatever work that the Most High wants me to do, if I just do it, all I got to do is make these videos, write books, do whatever he wants me to do, it'll serve its purpose. And I'm believing things will turn around. So yeah, that's, thank you. Thank you all for, again, watching and supporting. I appreciate it. What's going on, D-Nice? And yeah, yeah. Oh. Okay. Cool. Cool. That would be cool. I'm down. I think. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm still getting comfortable with the live stream aspect and responding to the comments and stuff. But again, thank you all for watching and supporting. I appreciate it. So I'm gonna jump into this video. Again, I'm watching this stuff blind, so I have no idea. I'm hoping this is beneficial, but I'm jumping into it blind, and we're gonna see what it's about. We're gonna see, if it's good or not. All right. Again, it's entitled "Black Men in Therapy," and it's from a YouTube channel called The Family. This came out, January 22nd, 2020. I'm gonna put it on 1.25, so we're not sitting here for too long. Let's get into it.
Yo, welcome back to the Azambu. So my wife is missing, but I slightly replaced her with a special guest. I got two special guests today. Brandy Stinson, licensed counselor and therapist. If you want to know her background, I need you to watch the video that we did about counseling and how important it is to have therapy. Me and my wife just did that video. But this video is slightly different. We want to talk about black men and therapy. And I thought, who better to talk about this than my brother Preston Perry, who wrote an epic poem called "Who Gives a Black Man Permission to feel.
What it do?
Man, I'm really grateful to have my boy Preston Perry here. In that piece, he gives a background to that piece, and he shares about how he experienced therapy for the first time. It went from you going to couples therapy, then it transitioned, and she went to see you by yourself. What happened with that?
Yeah. I went to therapy with my wife, and after the first session, the therapist spent some time like going over our childhood, asking us questions, trying to get to know us, and we spent a large deal on Jackie. And then when it got to me, she asked me, is anything traumatizing happening in your childhood? And it's a whole bunch of traumatizing stuff that happened in my childhood. And
I'm gonna say this real quick. I do too. I like them. I like their podcast together because I feel like they have really good conversations. They're very honest and transparent. So yeah, I like them both.
after the session, she was like, "Yo, I think you have PTSD, and I want to, see you by yourself next week." And I was like, "Why? Like, we in this together. Like, why are you trying to separate us?" I was so nervous.
Wait, hold on. PTSD, isn't that what is applied to people with veterans that?
Yeah, she read this article, and she was saying how most people, most studies have shown that a lot of people believe that more people from the hood have PTSD than people who come back from
What is that? What does the acronym mean?
Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Okay.
It's sad, but it's true. Like, I remember when I was in college, part of an organization that I was part of, we were actually mentoring a group of kids who were so I'm from the DMV area, and I went to College Park. We were mentoring a group of kids who lived near Hagerstown. And for some people, if they don't know about Maryland, Hagerstown is like northwest. And if you go out there, like growing up, going to Hagerstown, the only thing that we went to Hagerstown for was an outlet to buy stuff. But if you go out to Hagerstown is actually kind of a neglected kind of place. I think that's a good way to say it. And so we were, mentoring and helping out with a group of kids, mainly black. I think there were like a couple of Hispanic kids, but, and they were troubled youth, we'll say. And hearing some of the stories and stuff that they experienced. Like one time they told me, it's like, yeah, we were walking to school one day and we saw there was a dead body in a dumpster near where we lived. It's just crazy the stuff that people experience that they just brush off. And these kids were like teenagers, like tween teenager age. I've never seen a real dead body in my life. Not my life. Except for like funerals and stuff. But to just walk up on that, yeah, you're going to have PTSD. You're going to have PTSD. And there's so much that happens in our community that we feel like we just have to endure. And I mean, to some degree we do. Because if we don't, we won't survive. And I'm hearing it more and more, again, as the topic of therapy and mental health is becoming more prevalent in our community. A lot of black people have PTSD, whether they're in the hood or not. Traumatic experiences within their home, traumatic experiences going to school, traumatic experience. People have PTSD from going to work, just daily going to the office. And it's sad that people are just coping and dealing with this stuff and not having the resources or the equipment to help them to really deal with it. And this is why it's so important that one, we talk about this kind of stuff and that we do get therapy, like it's just wild. It's just wild. And sorry. Hello there. Hi there. And yeah, it's just sad. It's sad.
Disorder, I guess.
Disorder. Disorder. And she was just saying, like, because one, a lot of people from the hood don't go to therapy or can't afford it. It's really no real way to tell who all have it. But they was just like, people from the hood, they experience trauma almost every day of their life.
Wow.
Even if people haven't seen somebody get shot in the hood, like you hear so many stories, or you're always watching your back for your enemies or your friends' enemies or your friends' enemies. It's just always something to worry about growing up in an urban community. A lot of not all urban communities, but a lot of urban communities.
Let me ask you a question. What were some things that you normalize now, but things that now stand out to you in the way that you lived, in the way that you thought, that is just it's just not normal because of the things that you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, like, so to this day, I'm not able to, sit with my back turned in a restaurant, or like, or like every time my wife just always make fun of me because we go in a restaurant and I always have to sit with my back facing the window, or whatever.
So your back needs to face.
I mean, I'm sorry, not my back. I'm saying my face facing the window.
Oh, okay.
Or
You need to see who's coming.
I need to see who's coming in. And my wife was like, I've never seen anybody like this before. And I was like, I've always normalized it, but it wasn't until I started going to counseling where, my counselor like let me know like you've been conditioned to think and act a certain way. Also, too, the fact that I'm not able to share my emotions or my feelings with my wife or the people around me or the people who care for me the most. I'm not able to be vulnerable in a way. I don't want to be seen as weak or as a person who doesn't have it all together.
That's what your poem is about. I want you to share why.
I agree with him. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut him off, but I agree with him. Like, especially as a man, I'll share another. I'll try to be transparent. I'll share another story. So I one of the earliest memories I have of somebody telling me not to cry as a boy was going to go see a movie. Was going to go see a movie called Dragonheart, and so I don't know if anybody's going to remember this movie, but it's okay. It's a let me see if I can find it. Movie. It's a movie that came out in the 90s. And the whole concept of the movie, right, okay, so that's the image of it, right? There was oh wait, Dark Knight, you're not late. You're not late at all. And absolutely, it is exhausting. Like always being on guard, always being on alert. Like I think, again, people don't think about it, because once you like make it a part of your life, you normalize it. But again, the things that we do every day actually drains us. Our mental energy, even if it's stuff that runs on autopilot, it's pulling from our resources. Like it's crazy. But yes, Dragonheart, right? So when the movie came out, I went to go see it with my family or whatever. And so the whole kind of concept of the movie is like, in this kingdom, if I'm trying to remember it correctly, in this it's like English British kingdom or whatever, there is a prince or somebody that's like sick, and what they're trying to do, they want to heal the prince, but they need like the heart of the dragon or something like that to make him stay alive or whatever, because there's something wrong with him that he's sick, so they need this. And at this point they've killed like all the dragons of this area, right? And so they hire a knight or something to go and find a dragon, take out his heart, and then give it to this prince or this king or whatever, right? And long story short, the way that the movie works is you develop like empathy and relationship to this dragon, because it's like the last dragon in all the land, and it's like he's the only one, and he's trying his best to just survive, and then people keep coming and they're trying to kill him or whatever. They've killed all of his brothers and sisters. He's the only dragon left, right? And so you have, I think the main character was Kevin Costner. I think he was a knight, and so he goes and he's like, all right, I'm on commission by the king or the prince or whatever to go and get this heart of this dragon or whatever, right? And or like a piece of it. I can't remember all the details, but he goes and, again, he starts to, like it's a really good movie. I think it was a really good movie, right? And so he goes, he ends up having like develops a relationship with the dragon, because the dragon's intelligent, knows all this stuff, and they talk and wisdom and whatever. And I think at some point in the movie, I'm gonna say the dragon dies or something, but at the end of the movie, I cried. And I think I was crying because of the dragon died. And I'm crying, like I'm bawling, because it's like, oh my gosh, and I guess that's good storytelling. And I was young, but I felt relationship, kinship friendship with this dragon, this mythical creature, and I'm blown. Like, oh dang, we go through the whole movie and the dragon's dead. And like, oh crap, I'm sad, right? And the response was like, why are you crying? It's just a movie. Stop crying. Get over it. And that's something that I shared with my wife Alicia not too long ago, and she comforted me in that. But like coming up to this point now in my own personal mental health and like emotional intelligence journey, realizing that that shouldn't have happened. Like stories themselves, art itself is supposed to help you emote and learn things. I read an article recently about the importance of reading fiction and how actually fiction is a great tool to help people grow and develop in their emotional intelligence. Because it's something about, relating to characters and understanding things, and it helps you to look at the world differently. So it's important that you read, sure, nonfiction stuff, but you need to read fiction too, because it's equipping you with things that you probably not even thinking about. And so like looking back on that in hindsight and having other experiences similar to that, I learned similar to what Preston was saying, to suppress my feelings or to not share them, to not be expressive, and it's detrimental to us. And when you have those kind of experiences, it makes you think bad. It's like, well, crying is a bad thing to do. That turns into a belief, and now being vulnerable is an action that I will avoid. That's not healthy. It's not healthy for you as an individual. It's not healthy for you internally, and it's not healthy or helpful in regards to relating to other people. But it's something that we learn, and we're I guess are acculturized to experience, particularly within our community, and it's no good. Olivia says, I want to read more fiction. I feel like it's a great way to become more cultured too, if the characters are exploring foreign lands. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Altruistic narcissism. I think I can understand why being told not to cry in that instance is to help teach to regulate emotion, and at the same time to not waste emotion. I get what you're saying. I don't think you can waste emotion. In regards to regulate emotion, sure, I can see that. How you do that, I think, is key, though. So just telling somebody, boy, stop crying, that's not teaching somebody to regulate their emotions. Like, I think, especially towards children, you have to walk things through. One, you should validate their emotions and that they're important. And then, yeah, you can give them tools and resources to learn how to regulate those emotions and to process them. But that's not often the case. At least in my experience, and some experience that I've heard from other black men. Like, no, nobody's teaching me how to regulate my emotions. The regulation is don't do it. It's like full stop. It's not the same as let's learn how to ebb and flow. Let's learn how to actually process things. It's like, no, just cut it off. Forget it. Don't do it. Like Preston was saying, if you emote whatever emotions you have outside of particular ones, it means that you're weak. And of course, no man wants to feel weak because he doesn't want to be taken advantage of. And that's a fear. And that I think it starts to create a cycle of toxicity in your own life. Like, I can't express any emotions because I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be taken advantage of. And now you become very rigid. And even with rigidity, like becoming so rigid in like almost stonewall, that puts you in a position where you can become brittle too. So when actual opposition comes, where things challenge you, you fall apart. That creates fragility. In comparison, if you are, say, like a tree, like a bamboo tree, and you're learning to ebb and flow or sway with what's going on, you can experience your emotions, experience them and process them and lean into them. That won't break you compared to like, no, I have to be, just stone cold. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just, holding it all together. When something comes to you, it just breaks you down and then you completely fall apart. So, I mean, I agree and I disagree with some of the stuff you said, but like, I get it. Let's see. Olivia says, there'd have to be a conversation in order for that to be a lesson of regulation. Kids need to know the whys. Yeah, I agree. And again, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. right, let's get back to it.
Why did you feel like that?
Go back a little bit.
I don't want to be seen as weak or as a person who doesn't have it all together.
That's what your poem is about. I want you to share why did you feel like that, and why do you think that's just so prominent in our culture, like black men not sharing how they feel?
Man, I don't know. I can't speak for all black men. I can only speak. So in the poem, I highlighted my uncle who was murdered when I was young, who I lived with, and I highlighted him because I felt like his environment taught him not to feel. But in a lot of ways, him raising me, he taught me how not to feel. And I felt like it was this cycle of black men being born and raised in these environments where no one has ever taught them to how to process their feelings. And I think a lot of things probably encompasses that. But I think that one, I know growing up in the hood, like because so much craziness is around, you're taught not to be weak. You have to be strong. You can't like, especially in the hood, like if people see weakness, they sense it and they want you. So a lot of times, like, you know, like you're taught not to show weakness, and you grow accustomed to that. You grow accustomed to not showing your emotions, showing your feelings, because you feel like somebody will take advantage of you. So even when you get out of the hood and when you have a family, I think you take a lot of those things that you adopted, even in your home. It's like now I can't even be vulnerable with my child or my wife or, you know, my husband or whatever.
Your husband.
Anyways. No, yeah, like I'm agreeing with him. Like, things that you learn, you take with you, you know, and that's the hard part. Like we have to go through that stuff. Like we gotta unpack so much because we don't want to take the wrong things. Like stuff that we learned at a period of time that helped us survive doesn't necessarily mean that it will help us to thrive in a different area or season of our life. And that's the hard part. Like once you've become so intertwined and ingrained with something, it's hard to like release it. But once you find out that it's actually it's more beneficial to do something else, we got to learn how to let that stuff go. Let's see. Read this comment real quick. The Dark Nate says, it's interesting too. There's a general consensus for boys to not cry, but I remember we all collectively thought it was okay to cry at Mufasa's death in The Lion King. Makes me wonder what is acceptable and why it's acceptable. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's see. I'm going to come back to the comments. I'm going to keep going real quick, though. Let's jump back.
Adopted, even in your home. It's like now I can't even be vulnerable with my child or my wife or, you know, my husband or whatever.
Your husband.
Not my husband. I'm saying if I was a woman.
If you're a woman. So I'm going to bring this up because I talk a little bit about this in our book, about grieving. Because you talk about, you're at the very uncle that kind of taught you how to not show emotion. You're at the funeral and you're at the brink of wanting to show emotion, and they're telling you, toughen up. You can't be weak. Your family needs you to be strong right now. And I want to bring you into this.
Ooh, I'm just like,
yeah, that's crazy. So I want to ask you, how important is it to grieve when something affects you, to actually share and show your emotion and express yourselves when something happens to you that's traumatic or painful or whatever?
right. First of all, I mean, gosh, you brought up some amazing points. Like those are, you could just end it right
Go
there.
right there, right? Yeah.
That was all so good. But let me tell you, I cannot stand when someone is grieving and people are like, be strong. Well, that's not something that they're able to do right now. What you're basically doing is telling them, toughen up, right? And I think sometimes we tell people that because seeing them hurt is more about us and our discomfort than it is about allowing them to go through the process.
That's big.
Sorry, I'm gonna share another vulnerable story, I guess. So when I was in college and part of this fraternity / sorority, this organization, right? There was an experience when we were going through one of the seasons. A group of young ladies were joining the organization, and they were having a tough time, right? And I mean, I don't know how much people know about Greek life or whatever, but they're having a tough time. And at this particular situation could have ended their process into joining the organization, right? And I'm there. I think a couple other brothers are there with me, but it's majority sisters because it's for the sorority. And during this situation, the young ladies who were in the process of joining the organization, they start crying. And I remember feeling so uncomfortable, because for me, it's just like, just in general, like I don't like seeing people cry, But seeing women cry makes me, I mean, at that point in time, like I've matured from then. I mean, still, I don't like to see people cry because, you want to make things better for them. But at that point in time, it was just like, yo, I don't want to be here right now. This is so uncomfortable. I don't, this is strange. I don't know what to do. These girls are crying. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. And just thinking about that, what she just said, like very often people really don't know how to let other people just grieve and to let other people just feel, like I think that can play a part in like even toxic positivity. Like people don't really want to ask how you're doing because they don't want to hear the negativity. They'd rather just keep the day going because they don't want to see your stuff. They don't want to deal with your stuff because they probably just don't want to deal with their own stuff either. Yes, love what she said. That never made sense to me at funerals. Someone has passed. It's okay to cry. Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's keep going.
Right? And so it's very important to grieve because there's no way around grief. The only way over grief is actually through it. Right?
Go ahead.
And so you really have to, and I know grief is painful. Grief is scary because it's like going on this winding road because you really don't know from one moment to the next what you're going to feel like. But I always tell my clients, unfortunately, with grief, you really have to partner with it and you have to lean into it because our bodies have a way of naturally healing themselves, right? They heal. And so grief, if you can imagine it like an open wound, right? Yeah. And if you get a wound, a scrape, a cut or something like that, over time, after a few days, you'll notice that skin starts to come and then we get a scab and the scab falls off and, all of that. Well, so it is with our emotions, right? And so if we just lean into the process with, of course, the appropriate supports, we heal over time. But a lot of times people, because it's painful, we want to kind of push it. But the thing is, grief says, pay me now or pay me later, right? So the thing is, I tell people, trust me, baby, you want to pay that now because that's something, it won't just go away. You actually have to lean into it.
Let me share with some, this has nothing to do with anything.
I agree with her, especially when it comes to just like other emotions, especially the harder ones like grief or sadness. Like if you don't deal with that stuff, it will fester, inside of you. I've heard people in regards to talking about dreams. They talk about, dreams that are unfulfilled or dreams that are unpursued. They turn into a cancer in your life because it can lead to resentment and bitterness and all these things. And I think not processing and dealing with your emotions, all that stuff gets stored in your body in some way, whether that's actually showing up with extra weight or the loss of weight. Like the emotions that we experience as human beings is for a reason. And we have to learn how to navigate them and learn how to, like she said, work with them. Like if we don't, we're not being fully human. We're not being our full selves. And that's one thing I really appreciate about my wife is that she's taught me and revealed to me the importance and the power of emotions and sensitivity. And I've learned a lot from her and, the content and stuff that she makes on her channel. Because I didn't always have those kind of images in my life. Man or woman, to be honest, like actually emoting and being expressive. But it's important. Like we need that stuff. It's important.
But my wife hates when I bring this up. But I always talk about my ex from high school. My ex from high school. she cheated on me.
Diana, you talking about his ex?
Stop. Here's the thing. She cheated on me, and when she did, I was like, oh, say no more. All right, I will never love or give my heart to a woman. I will not. I was like, I made all of these like statements in my heart as anchors from the thing that I did not deserve this. Okay. All right, so that's what it's not going to be.
And your chocolate thunder came into your life and changed that little narrative.
And then she came in, but I brought that, like, I came in, I tried to bring that stuff to her, like, okay, like, I even, on the beginning of our relationship, she would say, I love you, brother, and, stuff like that. I'd be like, don't tell me you love me. Wow. Don't tell me you love me. I would just kind of, I would ask her, like, the whole first few months of our relationship, tell me right now what's wrong with you, because I want to end this. Tell me right now, because you can't be what you're showing me. And because that's what I experienced. Like, I thought this was love, and later on, this is what I saw. And so I just saw the effects, like what you said, pay me now or pay me later. I didn't realize if my wife didn't step up with her wisdom to nip that in the bud and see it for what it was, I would have dragged that in like something that happened in 11th grade.
And that person has moved on with their life, and you're over there struggling. And
That's so wow. That's so true. And again, I think this happens to a lot of guys, if I'm being honest. You got rejected in elementary school, middle school, or high school, and because of that experience and nobody actually helped you or guided you through how to process the pain, it created a thought in your mind that solidified into a belief that then, similar to this guy, created an action and a system of behaviors that then screwed you over for the rest of your life. Like a lot of these guys who I would say like in the manosphere or, you know, alpha males or red pills or whatever, to be honest, I feel like they just got hurt at some point in their life, particularly by women, by a woman or a young girl or whatever, and nobody ever told them how to deal with it, you know, and it sucks. It sucks, you know, like it sucks. But we have to learn how to process that stuff. And I think as men, we definitely have to learn how to process this stuff. And I think it's a lot of work now in our particular generation, because a lot of the generations before didn't do it. They didn't have the tools, they didn't have the resources, and they also probably didn't see it as valuable. But now we have to. We got to do it because we don't want reoccurring stuff. You know, we got to end this cycle of crap. All right, sorry. Comments. Let's go. Women in adjusting. Thank you for coming and commenting. I appreciate it. Disguising it as emotional regulation isn't honest because as a culture, we embrace expressing anger and outrage, especially for men. This is true. Anger, rage is definitely one of the more acceptable things that men should do. And that's limiting. And it also, in my opinion, like it limits the scope of our humanity as men to be like, that's all you can experience. Like extreme joy in situations usually tied to like sports or business or success. Lust, like you can lust after women as much as you possibly want. And anger. Somebody hurt you or cut you off or whatever. It's like the three major emotions that men are supposed to feel. But there's a whole, you know, I like to use an emotions wheel. This is kind of like a color wheel, and it shows you all the different types of emotions that you could experience. But, you know, if you only just pick three things and it's just like, oh, wow, I can't mix and match with this. Like, I don't know what to do, especially if nobody tells you how to mix colors together. You know, you're just stuck. It's like, oh, I got red, blue, and green. That's it. And I don't know how to mix colors. So this is all I'm going to draw with is red, blue, and green. But it's like, no, there's a whole world of shades and tints and grays and all this stuff, all these other colors in between, complementary and all that stuff. But if nobody's telling you that, you're only, you know, limited. But thank you for sharing this. The Dark Nate says, in reference to unprocessed dreams, yes, I agree. My biggest dream that reoccurred over the last decade has been me being stuck in high school for the longest time. I never really faced the regret of not reaching my full potential. It severely affected my mental health. But now that I'm finally going back to college, it's like a weight lifted off of me. That's awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate you for sharing that. Let's see. He also says, it was like I was grieving what could be if I didn't waste my life. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Wow, that's so sad. Just rejecting love to suppress deep emotion. Exactly. You know, you end up creating this fortress to like, I'm guarding my heart. And it's like, you're preventing actual good stuff from coming in or even coming out. And I think a lot of men wrestle with that because nobody teaches you and equips you to deal with actual rejection. And it sucks because I think that 14, 15-year-old boy who experienced this thing stays like locked there. And then they move into adulthood. And then when they get rejected as adults, that kid lashes out, you know, and does ridiculous stuff that I'm sure the women in the comments have probably experienced and that we see every day. You know, it's just not good. But if they had those tools and effort was made into like, no, it's okay. Like, these things happen. It's all right. You're like, it's not the end of the world, but again, that's one of the reasons why we have to keep growing in our emotional intelligence and developing in this space. All right, let's see.
Step up with her wisdom to nip that in the bud and see it for what it was, I would have dragged that in like something that happened in 11th grade.
And that person has moved on with their life, and you're over there struggling, and
it don't make no sense. And so just bringing it back to Preston's situation, the fact that you're carrying this, you're in your, I don't know, fourth year of marriage, you have kids now, trying to process that stuff. What would you say for, because I grew up in the hood, I seen murders, I had guns put to my head, and we actually had to kind of just like, we just have to live like, it just didn't matter. So you said something that was really, really important. You said most men avoid counseling because of whatever reason. They don't think nothing wrong with them, whatever the case may be, but also finances. You feel like, man, I ain't about to sit up, there's two issues. I ain't about to sit up under no counselor like something wrong with me, and the other issue is like, I can't afford to see a counselor. So what would be your two kind of arguments to that, or you could speak on that?
Yeah, I think we have this stigma in our head that if I'm going to counseling, I must be crazy. Or something must be wrong with me. And it's just like, nah, the truth is, I think nobody lives in this broken world and it's not affected by trauma. Like, this world is fallen, and because it's fallen, we're all affected by trauma in some shape or fashion. So I think there's no way to escape that. And I think that if we get over this fact that like, only crazy people go to therapy, or only people who got like deep issues. It's like, no, you have deep issues. Yeah, everybody has deep issues. For the finances thing, I think we put our money into what's a priority for us. So nobody is not going to ignore lung cancer. Nobody's going to ignore when their body is riding away. And it's like we do the same thing with our emotions though. Like we ignore our emotional health so much because we feel like it's not important. But in the meantime, our children are affected, our spouses are affected, our family members, our friends are affected. And I think that if we see as a priority, I think we should, that my emotional health affects everything in my life. Not just everything emotional in my life, but physical. Like our emotional health, like a lot of people have bad physical health because of stress, of trauma, of anxiety. Like all of these things play a fact. I think what God created us, He created us holistically, and all of these things, our emotional health affects our physical, and vice versa. So I think that if we see it as a priority, I think that we have budget. But I also want to say for the people who don't have money, there are programs out there. A lot of programs that will assist you. There are some people have medical insurance that would allow them to go to therapy and counseling at an affordable rate. So I think there's many options, but I think mainly you have to see that it's worth it. If you don't see that it's worth it, you're never going to budget, you're never going to make time for it.
I agree 100% with what Preston said here. Like we have to make it a priority. And I think our mental health, our emotional health is such an integral part of our humanity that we're kind of often taught to ignore, especially as men, but it's a big part of us. Like I don't know. I mean, it's just my thought. Like I feel like we've been convinced and programmed to dehumanize ourselves so much that we then like ignore this stuff. We don't invest in it. Like we're sometimes more interested in just presenting ourselves a certain way rather than actually dealing with the inside. And it's not good. it's not good. And I agree. Like there are, especially now, I think more and more resources being made available to help those who, if it's an issue with finances. But I think it really does start with our perception and perspective of ourselves and the importance of taking care of ourselves and our mental and emotional, because it does, like he said, it all plays a part, like spirit, soul, and body. Like it all is integrated and works together. All right, let's see what you guys said in the comments. The Dark Nate says, yeah, I was bitter from like 17 to 21. I remember how quickly my relationship deteriorated. Let's see. Okay. One of my exes cheated on me when I was 16 with my best friend. I'm sorry, man. I became so resentful of girls, but I didn't process it for a long time because I didn't want to seem hurt. It wasn't until 22 to 24 that I finally started to let go. And again, it felt like a physical weight lifted off of me. That resentment really does something to the energy body. It's true. It's true. Like, again, there's a lot of stuff that we can just carry. And after a while, I feel like we carry it for so long that we forget what it's tied to, and it just becomes normal. But that's not good. Like, we need to process those things. Thanks for sharing, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. Lotus flower. Excuse me. Tithemus, like you mentioned, excuse me, he really needs a men's support group. Yeah, those are important. Let's see. Olivia says, right. That's why it's important to let kids go through emotion and self-soothe, because there comes a time where no one may be around to assist them. They have to learn the techniques that fit them. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Altruistic narcissism. It's not just about money. It's the time it takes to be able to dedicate to mental health and support. Continues. I think this is continuation. When you have to choose between putting food on the table and an hour of talking about feelings, that hour can be used to pay a bill. That's a hard choice to make, although important. I agree. I agree. I definitely see where, especially as men, and again, I think it goes back to, like, this could be a whole other study, but like, I think it can go back to like the idea of patriarchy and all of the things that we're expected to do as men, and all the things that we're, supposed to uphold and sustain, and so on and so forth. But it's true, like, if you have to weigh the cost between like, no, I need to make sure my family's okay, or go and talk to somebody about something. Yeah. Like, it's very often like a no-brainer. I think that's like, in situations like that, not to say that you should neglect your children or not feed your family or not serve or whatever. What comes to mind for me is the idea of like sharpening your axe. If you're using an axe, which is yourself, and your energy and your thoughts and all yourself, to serve those around you, the axe will get dull the more that you chop away at stuff. And it's important that you do set aside time. It may not be an hour, it may just be 30 minutes, it may be whatever you can fit in, but if you see the importance of how it's all connected, if I'm a better version of myself, if I'm sharper, I can do more for my family. And it could be like, since we're tying it to money, like maybe my emotional and mental state helps me to go out and learn how to make more money for my family, so that we all have more time, and I think it's important that we have conversations and discuss those kind of ideas and problems, because we often have a very limited scope of what's possible, particularly here, within the society that we live in. It's almost like capped and limited. But even for myself, I'm working on trying to have a more abundant mindset, that it's like all things are possible. Like, there's ways to improve stuff, so there's a way that I can make more money without having to work more hours to benefit my family or to benefit myself or whatever. But again, that requires us to talk and have different perspectives, and to also like renew our minds, have new thoughts. But that takes work, and that takes conversations and stuff like that. Let's see. I'll read what the Dark Knight says and get back. All right, the Dark Knight says, that's understandable, altruistic narcissism, but at a certain point, the cost of suppression becomes too high and counterproductive. When you ignore your health to the degree that you only get 3 hours of sleep, and you're ignoring chest pains to pay bills, eventually your body is going to shut down because you ignored it too long. Yeah, I agree. You don't have to kill yourself and really stepping into a new frame of thinking. Yeah, like, I agree. And I think very often for a lot of men, because that was something that their father did or their grandfather did and so on and so forth, you kind of just work yourself to death, to survive in the moment. That's not long lasting, and it's not a thriving position. But again, it's a paradigm that I think we've been taught, and we have seen so often in our community, that we can't look past it. But we have to renew our minds. We have to have different thoughts and different perspectives, so that we can continue to grow and get better. All right, we're almost done with the video. So thank you all for hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
It's good. It's good. Do you have anything to say, a nod to that? I think he covered it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's one thing that you're preaching to the choir there about just making your mental health a priority. One thing that, I talk with my counselor friends a lot about is that we get a lot of calls, and sometimes people will say, oh, well, I can't come to therapy because I work late. But what about when you go to the dentist, right? Do you take off work to go to the dentist? You take off work to go to your primary care physician for a physical? Well, this is just as important. What you're saying is that your mental and emotional wellness is not as important as your employer or going to work, right? When in reality, if you become severely depressed or you're so anxious that you can't function throughout the day, that's going to wane anyway.
Yeah.
And so, and to your point about lung cancer or other medical diagnoses that we feel like, okay, well, this is something that can take me out early. Guess what? People die by suicide every day.
Uh-oh.
From unmanaged depression or anxiety or what have you. And so it's just as important. And like you said, we have to start budgeting our time and our resources into our mental and emotional wellness.
That's good.
That's good. You guys said a lot of stuff. I think we got to close out right now. But just bringing it back to God, and I believe that God created us for a purpose. Do you think that somehow he should have gave us a nod that getting therapy and talking to people was important? Do you think that in Scripture there's some value attributed to being able to share, the things that we go through? Because I think sometimes people just they got the church mind. It's just like, no, man, I'm depressed, but God says I got joy, and it comes in the morning. Amen.
I hate when people say that. The Bible actually says in the multitude of counselors there's safety.
Yeah.
There's a safe place or whatever. And we use I think a lot of times we use God as a cop out. Like we're trying to cop out from processing through our emotions, and it's like, oh, but Jesus is my therapist. Jesus is also a good shepherd, but we have earthly shepherds.
Wow.
We don't say, Jesus is my shepherd, so I don't need a pastor.
Wow.
Right. So in the same way,
That's
he's a great counselor, and because he's a great heavenly counselor, he's given us great earthly counselors. And I think that if we see it that way, I think it eliminates that excuse.
I agree, and I think there's a lot of. I think there's a big tie between toxic positivity and toxic Christianity, because I've definitely heard people say that. My wife has experienced that from some of her ex-friends. Of she was trying to express and share, things that she was going through and talking about needing to go to counseling or whatever, and her ex-friend was like, you don't need to go to counseling. You shouldn't need to go to counseling because, Jesus is everything you need. BS. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that Jesus isn't great, of course, but Jesus also provides us with these things. He provides us with community. He provides us with resources. The Most High provides us with men and women in our life to help us to grow. But having bad thoughts and having bad beliefs like spewed across a community and a society traps people, and it doesn't help people, and that's garbage. People, this is, as a believer, as a Christian, there are things that I really don't like about the church, and I really don't like about religion, and this is one of those things that so many people are taking advantage of because they are looking for help. They're desperate. They're desperate for change. They're desperate for growth, and but a lot of people take advantage of their desperation and milk them for all they have in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, and it's very sickening and infuriating. Like, it's disgusting. And I mean, and my own personal beliefs, the Most High is gonna have those people are gonna have to pay for that, for mismanaging and abusing people's souls, for greed, for money, or King James is like filthy lucre. Like, no, people need help. All throughout the scriptures, like Preston said, counselors, or even just grieving. Like, there's so much emotions in the scripture. There's a lot there, and but yeah, people take advantage of people, and it's ugh. I mean, I'm glad they said that. I'm glad they said that. Hold on, let me see. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna read these comments and then we'll wrap it up. But thank you all again for joining me for this study hall. I hope you have all found it helpful, or beneficial, or at least entertaining. I don't know. The Dark Knight says, "My bad. I meant you don't have to kill yourself. You need to step into a new frame of thinking." Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Appreciate it. I always appreciate the things that you share, man. It's always good stuff. Yeah, I agree. Lotus flower. You got to do the work in conjunction with God. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's garbage. Olivia says, agreed. It's very weird. If God works through people, why can't you seek counsel and therapy from professionals? Come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I people go to school to learn these things to actually serve people, you know, but it was like, no, you just need Jesus. You need the Bible. You need to come and serve on, you know, Wednesday and Sunday, and then everything will be all right. No. I think every church should have actual professional therapists there. You know, if you want to provide a service, if you want to do community service, hire a therapist to serve a community. Because why not? You know, I don't know. I don't know. All right.
Good stuff.
Jesus will also tell you to go to therapy too.
Oh, listen.
He'll point you to the right therapist.
I got some Jesus in Therapy hoodies and t-shirts on my website.
Hey, look, the website right now is right below. You guys can actually cop the Jesus in Therapy hoodie. It's dope. I'm going to show it real quick on the screen. Boom. It's a dope, amazing hoodie. I still don't have mine. No,
I gotta get one of those.
You know what I'm saying?
I gotta get you one.
Yeah.
For the free since you out here, you know,
Hey, we love the free
doing the Lord's work.
And she said something in one of our other videos, and I'm going to close it out with this. Like, God's called you to purpose. He's called you for his kingdom, to be an ambassador for him. And you cannot do that. You cannot steward the purpose and the call that he has for your life if you're walking around broken. You're walking around not able to process some of the trauma that you've been through, to process some of the pain that you're going through, that you haven't grieved. Jesus even wept. So you're over here trying to be a tough guy, and Jesus, the ultimate example of manhood, gave us that. And so I just want to encourage you as a black man, the black men that are going to get this video is going to get shared to you. I want you to realize that God has so much more for you, that it's important for you to kind of get those things off your chest, get that healing that you need so that you can be who your community needs you to be. Be who you need you to be first. Be who your family needs you to be, of course, second, and who God has called you to be primarily. And you'll be so much more effective. You'll be just so much more fruitful once you realize and take this stuff as a priority. Stop deprioritizing your emotional and mental wellness, right?
Yeah,
Man.
facts only.
Thank you guys.
Good
so
interview,
much.
man.
Yeah, I
Put a little more chestnut
You know what I'm
sweater.
saying? I
You know
ain't
what I'm
trying, you know what I'm
saying?
saying? Now I got my therapy. I just feel like I can just do more.
I'm gonna stop it there. I think that was really good. I mean, I don't know. I thought the video was good, and again, I appreciate you all hanging out with me and sharing in the comments. I really do. What was I gonna say? Let me just read the comments because I lost my train of thought. That would be really nice if they did. Sadly, a lot of these churches are money hungry. It's true. Let's see. The Dark Knight says they also need to do background checks on these people running Sunday school. Big facts, because you got a lot of unqualified people who are allowed to teach our kids. Big facts. Again, thank you all for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Again, I hope you guys got something out of it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, all those things. What was I gonna say? I know I will say this. I know for a lot of people, when it comes to religion or spirituality and stuff, particularly with Christianity, that's a big turnoff. I understand that, and I'm not trying to necessarily force anything on anybody, but I do believe that we are all here for a purpose, and we are all here to live well and to live for glory, doing something bigger than yourself and for the good of others. And, you know, black man, you're called for more than mediocre living. You're here for a purpose, to live for glory and for the good of others. Let's do the work and keep choosing to become beneficial for our community. Protect your mental, make time for an emotional release valve, and keep striving to become beneficial. I believe in you. Go make something for yourself, of yourself, and for glory and for good. And I do want to say special thanks to all of the ladies, all the sisters that are in here supporting. I really, really appreciate it. Really, really do. Thank you. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.